Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old, to history, to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. The fictional comic book lawsuit. The true, oftentimes mundane face of the law need not apply. We want sensationalism and lots of times inaccuracy. So many inaccuracies. Court processes that move far faster than their real life counterparts. Comics have their fair share of these cases, when sometimes they decide that superheroes need to deal with some realism. We've even got superheroes whose secret identities are lawyers. You know, so you can never sleep or just dump everything on paralegals. We recently, at the time of this recording, took a look at Daredevil #7, which featured Namor trying to sue all of humanity. It was ludicrous and all in all a small blip in a tale that was really trying to highlight the nobility of Matt Murdock to be able to take on a foe when he was so obviously outclassed. But it ignited a fire in me. I need to see more court cases. Today we have a Shulky case, that being the She-Hulk, from the Dan Slott run on the character in 2004 through 2005. A run that focused on the fact that Jennifer was a lawyer and played with the concept of her taking on superhero-focused cases. She was taken on by the firm Goodman, Lieber, Kutzberg, and Holloway, GLK&H. She's hired to work in the superhuman law division, but she could only work there if she was Jennifer on the clock, which left her to be She-Hulk off hours on her own time. This led to her having to find a balance between the two forms, as at that time she was more comfortable as the She-Hulk. This series would be well received but struggle in sales, leading to its initial run lasting 12 issues, but it would end up being relaunched 8 months later after its initial cancellation with the same creative team, and that run made it 21 issues. But it suffered from some continuity issues between it and the Hulk that was running at that time. But that's a story for another time. We're here for court cases. And maybe seeing this issue will help you decide if you want to read more of this run or not. We needed to lay all that groundwork for some of this to make sense, because the case we're about to look at takes place in issue 4. Get ready for Spider-Man to sue the Daily Bugle, specifically J.Jonah Jameson. The more you think about it, the more it makes sense as a case that he would want to happen, but you're about to see that how it is actually executed, lot doesn't make sense. So if you're ready to see Spider-Man try to get even for years of slander, then stay tuned. But before we get started, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Join us on this comic book journey. We do it all. Marriages, court cases, tawdry stuff. Our cover is Plain City with extra stops in Snoozeville. She-Hulk and Spider-Man look cool, but they're not doing anything. It's just like, you like She-Hulk? You like Spider-Man? Well, here you go. Wall background. Done. Our story is by the aforementioned Dan Slott with art by Juan Bobillo. I'll flash everybody, their names that is, I know, phrasing, when we actually get to the opening title page. It's a bit further in, we have a cold open. Tuesday night in New York City. She-Hulk holding up a poorly drawn spider as a Spidey signal to get his attention. The reason? Her associate and co-worker Pug, who has a crush on her, and also was saved by Spider-Man years earlier in canon. Don't worry, if you haven't heard of him, he's new. He was just created in issue 2 of this run. He wants to thank Spider-Man for saving his life in a unique fashion. The thanking is unique. The saving was just Spider-Man stopping him from being beaten to death by the Mafia. That's one sad-looking Spidey signal, lady. Artistic license. So what's up, Shulky? Why the invite? I hope you love grating on everyone's nerves Spider-Man, because that's the Spidey we have here. Present and accounted for. Get your cheese out. They shine the signal onto the Bugle, and Pug says he wants him to legally battle one of his biggest enemies. What? Sue Doc Ock for sexual harassment? Venom for copyright infringement? No, wait. Electro for assault with a battery. And then Pug weighed his gratitude versus his ability to tolerate so much sass. He decided it was time to walk away. Roll credits. Just kidding. Wednesday. Jameson is freaking out over the Spidey symbol being projected onto the side of the building and is asking if they can put mirrors all around the building so that it can never happen again. So unhinged Jameson, I see. And then Clint Eastwood walks into his office. It's not actually Clint Eastwood though, it's a shapeshifter that's employed by the law firm where She-Hulk works so that they can easily subpoena people. I don't know why they felt that they had to make it look like Clint Eastwood. It's Jameson's love of the man with no name well known. There are so many other ways you could get into the building. But I mean, if you're a shapeshifter, gotta have fun with it. I still feel it would have raised more questions. He came in a poncho with a cowboy hat on. This is happening because this series is aiming for a lighthearted tone, or at least a comedic one, because it is She-Hulk, and her much lauded sensational She-Hulk series had a comedic element running throughout. So many writers have sought to match that. Not that both of these runs couldn't or didn't have their serious moments and themes as well. As with all things humor, your mileage will vary. Cold open over. Web of lies. If this is supposed to be a newspaper headline, shouldn't she be Jennifer in this pic? Well, I mean, I get it. That's not as good of a pick. Gotta sell that copy. They also put the synopsis of the series and of last issue on this page too. It's a cute way to do it. Thursday. Peter is excited about this case, even though MJ points out that any earnings would be made out to Spider-Man, so how would he get the money anyway? How could he even have a case as suspending? I'm suspending. One of those lawyers reacts to fictional things would have a field day with this issue because there's so much wrong, and I know I've only caught some of it. Peter says he'll just donate his winnings to charity or get more Spidey stuff. This is purely here so they can make a joke about the Spidey mobile. They love to make fun of the Spidey mobile. Once you're aware of it, you cannot forget that it existed. We're then treated to the subplot that is Pug trying to work up the courage to ask Jennifer out while they work out. He does not succeed, chickening out.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you if you'd take first chair on this one.
Smooth. Confuse her and give up a good opportunity for your career. Ladies love that. Jennifer, of course, knows that wasn't really what he wants to ask, but she acquiesces for the moment. The publisher vows to take the stand. Well, he can vow all he wants, but either they're gonna call him or they're not gonna call him. He'd know by this point if he was being prepped to be a witness. At least they ran this one on the editorial, not on the front page. Can still count as an exhibit though, shouldn't have published it. All of this public spectacle has caught the eye of the villains of the Marvel Universe, especially Spider-Man's. And there are some who have access to grind with both Spidey and Jameson. Appropriately enough, our chief angry villain for this issue is the Scorpion, Mac Gargan. Well, Mac Gargan first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man number 19 in 1964, where Jameson hired him to follow Peter around and find out how he was getting those sweet Spider-Man pics. He did not figure that out, but he was turned into the Scorpion shortly after because of Jameson, who funded a project that was supposed to build his own kind of soldier that could go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man. He funded an experiment that was going to imbue the subject with some helpful animal elements, and he picked a scorpion because scorpions are a predator to a spider. How is Jameson not in jail? Totally normal newspaper mogul activity. This experiment went wrong and it drove Mac Gargan insane, as well as permanently bonded the Scorpion elements to him. So he's bitter. He reads this editorial and asks Alistair Smythe for some help, some tech, so we can get close to the courthouse to get both of them. And what's some Spider Slayer tech between Spidey foes? June 24th, 2004. So Friday. This trial's turnaround. In these comics, it's always astounding. Like the Bugle's lawyers wouldn't have tried to stall this, like there wouldn't have been attempts to settle, like there aren't other cases backing up the court. I'm sorry. Suspending. Before our trial though, we have to give poor Pug one last attempt to get close to Jennifer. So close! But then she asks out John Jameson, who's there as a witness, which puts her in conflict, which means that Pug has to be first chair, which he gave up earlier when he was trying to ask her out. We get a little broken heart around the back of the panel, which is nice and illustrates all his feelings and sadness. You can't win. She's gonna marry John and then divorce him. It's gonna involve Star Fox. They skip opening arguments to get right to the farce. I mean trial. So is this slander, libel, defamation? What is each lawyer's specialty within the superhuman division? Because lawyers and firms specialize and have expertise in certain areas. Sorry. Suspending. Pug's strategy is to demonstrate all the good that Spidey has done for the community and how that has been misrepresented by the Bugle. John's here because he's the first person that Spidey ever saved. It's true, because he sure didn't save Uncle Ben now, did he? Why is this trial making me so bitter? I'm a bitter Betty. John Jameson first appeared in 1963 in Amazing Spider-Man issue 1 and would later be deemed boring and be turned into a werewolf. Good times. He's here to testify how Spidey saved him.
After the accident, your father ran a front page story claiming that Spider-Man had sabotaged the launch. Colonel, in their lengthy investigation, did NASA find any evidence to support this wild accusation?
None whatsoever. Ooh. We then skip over how Jameson was apparently trying to influence the police force real quick. Can we get back to that please? But no, we need Betty Brant. You remember Betty Brant? We last saw her when we did our Spider-Man What If Somebody Else Was Bitten by the Radioactive Spider and she had that costume, that Spider-Girl costume with the underarm webbing. Never forget. She has a photographic memory now and introduces a fascinating angle, saying that Jameson was pushing negative Spidey stories to move papers. See, that's an interesting take. Is his hatred fake? I mean, we know it isn't, but that's a cool angle to introduce. She could have gone with, is it just a happy marriage of capitalism and personal vendetta? Or is he playing the vendetta up to sell papers? Because Robbie Robertson then introduces the angle that they were really putting a lot of money into advertising the Spider-Man Menace myth, which also sold papers. And he says that that brought their subscriptions up 300%. And then they call Spider-Man to the stand. He webs into the courtroom. Just a world where Spidey and his snark are not held in contempt of court. Say, can we get this show on the road? I got 12 other places to be this month.
Oh gee, sorry Mr. I called this suit.
Jameson brings up the actually good point of how do we even know that this is Spider-Man? But it's okay, they have some kind of Avengers scanny thingy that can tap into the federal database to prove that it's really him. And that couldn't be faked at all, this whole trial. They then hold up headlines for him to read and for him to confirm or deny if he was in fact a menace. Do we have any videos or doctored photos or something to prove that the headlines are fake? We just got hearsay? Okay. Then Pug asks, why does Jonah hate him? Which, I mean, okay, can we ask about how this has damaged his livelihood or his life or, you know, something to do with the case? These kinds of cases are kind of hard to prove. We need to spend our time wisely. At first, I didn't really know. But over the years and after some serious thought and soul searching, I think I figured it out. The real reason Jonah hates me is because I'm black. I'd laugh, but I'm too twisted up in how much of this would never happen. Do you ever read a joke in a story and get the feeling that the whole rest of the story was structured around it? Like the joke came first and everything else came after? I don't know why, but I get that vibe. Like it wasn't, oh man, wouldn't that be funny? Peter accuses Jonah of being racist. Makes him sweat a bit. And then think backwards about all the other things you could do with this scenario. I didn't know, I mean, I have nothing against that. I would never, some of my best friends are, oh, kidding, sorry. Racism and potentially ruining a man's reputation that he's already ruining himself. You can't point out the real things that Jonah's done because he's done plenty. Also, sit properly in the court. I'll hold you in contempt if the judge won't. So now it's cross-examination time, where the counter is that Spidey harasses Jonah and that he is a menace. So we get the list of the deaths he's caused, like Captain Stacy, Gwen's dad, bringing back Venom, and by proxy introducing the world to Carnage. Hey, tangential responsibility and guilt. Peter's two favorite things. You keep this up and he'll sue himself. Haha, take that, you web-headed freak. Judges can dismiss cases if they're too silly and frivolous, can't they? I mean, they can do it before. Can they do it during? Can we just mistrial this? Is this a mistrial yet? Too much shenanigans in the court. A messenger from the law firm comes to inform She-Hulk that the Scorpion is coming to the building and that he's got spider robots. So her and Spider-Man leave in the middle of the trial to take this on. So Jameson is called to the stand, and finally we get the list of the things that he's done because he tries the Batman defense. That's the, oh, he creates the villains that he fights. But of course, that's a poor argument if you created the Scorpion. So then we get the whole you funded / created, as I just mentioned, the Scorpion, the project that created the Fly and the Spider Slayers. How is he still running the Bugle? I have so many questions. Did he use Bugle funds for that? Fired, imprisoned. Those were some pretty concrete things, right? I mean, for the context of what we're dealing with. Then they just start going through a list of how his employees were connected to the mob, which is much more tenuous. I mean, he didn't hire them knowing that. Did he even hire them, or did HR hire them? This is not the strongest part of your case. A lot of this is just Slott going, look how much Spidey lore I know. He does end up writing Spider-Man later, and this really feels like a bit of a trial run. Like, look, I know all the Spidey. I know his history. I understand. I too try to sneak random comic book facts into conversations. Also, Peter gets onto the corrupt employees list because of Aunt May's relationship with Dr. Octopus. This whole argument is tenuous. You could have had other things for Peter. Peter is hella shady, vanishing all the time to go God knows where. Oh look, they took down the Scorpion. We're then treated to a bizarre scene where MJ goes to meet Peter in a diner, but it's not MJ, it's the same shapeshifter from the start, summoning Peter to court as a witness. Okay, a couple of things. Why was he not already on the list? He is an important part of the Bugle's history. He would have already been on the list, and you can't just add a witness to the list like that. You have to already have them compiled and prep them and suspending. And suddenly Peter realizes that, oh, my dual identity is a problem. We also learned that he has a coffee table book called Webs that's for sale on Amazon for $29.95. I don't care what universe this is, that would sell. He should be doing better off. You've introduced this kind of throwaway fact, but it would drastically alter his life. People would be buying copies of Webs. They would be. He would be making a lot of money if he could market himself properly. Since Peter admits to faking Spidey photos on the stand and dressing up as Spidey to fake said photos, Pug adds him to the suit. You can't just add a person to the suit. I mean, you would have to alter it before, or you'd have to wait till this case is done and then launch a new one. Suspending? Either way, Peter is flabbergasted that this happened. Stunned. He did not think this through at all. Neither did Pug apparently, because I guess he never thought that Spider-Man's secret identity could somehow be tied to the Bugle. Nobody thought this through. So Peter decides that they have to settle, but it's not like he can take the money, so he has to come up with an alternate type of settlement. Peter Parker and J.Jonah Jameson both need to hand out apologies in public, wearing chicken suits. Jonah's lawyer tells him to take this farce of a deal because they could have lost $300 million. I'm amazed that the board is gonna let him keep his job after this madness, or that people are going to after they heard all the stuff he did. Their faces aren't even showing for this. Ooh. Extra, extra. Read all about it. Bugle's vendetta is over easy. The end. One and done. Not even a clause saying that they can't slander him anymore? Nothing? Huh? No wonder his coffee table book isn't selling. Terrible, terrible negotiating. You had the upper hand. You blew it. This story was an experience. I get what it was going for. Lighthearted fare based on a fairly solid premise, at least in terms of story-based entertainment, not realism. The Bugle getting sued for slandering Spidey. It has the potential to be very satisfying. For me though, this really felt way more like a Spidey story than a She-Hulk story, and it may have been better suited to a Spidey book, since really it's a pretty big issue for the character when you think about it. A story like this could have been a whole arc. arc. Nothing takes so long as the trial of the Flash. We don't need to take 2 years, but it could have been more than one issue. There were lots of interesting avenues to explore and some new ideas brought up that are just kind of glossed over. I really liked the idea that some people would think that Jonah is faking how much he hates Spider-Man just to sell papers. This story, while humorous in concept, may actually have been a bit stronger if played a bit more dramatically, with the comedic elements downplayed. It also could have done with a bit more realism in terms of court proceedings. Yes, this is the realm of fiction, and of course we all need to suspend our disbelief a little bit, but also stories need to make a bit of an effort to not be just rampantly inaccurate. How would Peter not be a witness in his suit against the Bugle when he's the known photographer of Spider-Man? I can't! The story was fine, but for me, I couldn't get away from all that it could have been. And maybe that's not fair to do to it, because it's trying to be one thing and I want it to be something else, and you know, that's on me. But I really think that it had more potential than was ultimately explored in the story. And the fact that the court case was so inaccurate and some of just the base legal proceedings made some of the humor fall a bit flat for me. But then again, if you played a story like this seriously, it could have some very strong, lasting implications. So it's probably for the best that it's just a throwaway one-shot type of deal. And the whole quick, quirky case format is exactly what this book was going for at the start, the She-Hulk one that is. So it's definitely ticking the boxes of what was needed for this run. And of course Spidey is there. Spidey's always tried out when you want a boost. Draw him in with Spidey and hopefully get him to stay for the lead character. But you should already be staying for the She-Hulk. She-Hulk, why I say it like He-Man? Share what you thought of this story down below, and also let me know of more of your favorite comic book court cases. I want to hear about them. I want to hear all the zany stories, and while you're doing that, please do all the other YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.